If you walk away from the most infamous motorcycle club in the world, what happens next? Is it even possible to leave without a target on your back? Are there consequences? Some say once you're in for life. There's no such thing as a retired member. Only those who left in good standing, and those who didn't. Today, we're digging into one of the most dangerous questions you can ask in the outlaw biker world. What really happens when you leave the Hells Angels? Is it even possible to walk away clean, or does the patch bind you for life? Take the former president of the Ventura chapter, a man who once held one of the highest seats in the club. When he walked away, he went from president to no one. George Christie spent nearly 4 decades inside the Hells Angels. From firebombings to attempts on rivals, there was little he didn't do. He patched into the Los Angeles chapter in 1976, went on to found the Ventura chapter in 1978, and eventually rose to president. He even carried the Olympic torch in 1984, a surreal image of an outlaw standing in the spotlight of the world. But crime has a long memory. In 2001, a 59-count federal indictment landed Christie in solitary for a year, and later he served more time for firebombing rival tattoo shops. By 2011, after decades of loyalty, Christie tried to walk away, but the club wouldn't let him leave clean. His request for good standing was denied. He was excommunicated, branded out bad. And in the outlaw world, out bad doesn't just mean you're expelled, it means you're erased.
They put me on Front Street, they exiled me, Being exiled, you go off and you live your own little world, but not only did Sonny wasn't happy, he wasn't satisfied that I had left the club. He had to attack my character and everything I stood for and built.
From that moment on, no member could speak to him. For Christie, it was like losing a family, an identity, and a way of life. Today, he admits he still misses the brotherhood, but not the prison time. He even continues to defend the Angels, calling them a non-criminal organization made up of criminal members. And that's the thing about the Hells Angels. Walking away isn't the same for everyone. But here's the twist. Getting in is even harder than getting out. You don't just join the club. You earn your way in, step by step, through a path that's long, demanding, and designed to break anyone who isn't cut out for it. It starts with a hang-around stage. You don't apply, but you're invited. Maybe it's at a bike show, a charity run, or a bar. From the moment you show up, you're being watched. How you ride, how you talk, whether you show respect. Walking away now is simple. You just stop coming around. If you're invited further, you move into the associate stage. You're no longer just a face in the crowd. You might help at events, run small errands, or just be present when needed. This part is about proving reliability. Leaving here won't bring you trouble, but it will likely close the door on ever getting another shot. The real test begins when you become a prospect. This period can stretch a year or more. You're on call 24/7, with no voice, no vote, and no power. Every move you make is judged. If you walk away now, you won't face retaliation, but you will carry the mark of someone who couldn't see it through, and people will remember. Pass every test, and the club votes you in, unanimously. The moment you receive that patch, with the death head and your chapter's name, it stops being a piece of cloth. It becomes your identity and your protection. Because once you're patched, there are only 2 ways out: in good standing or in bad. In the Hells Angels, the motto, "Angels forever, forever angels," isn't just a slogan. It's a lifetime bond. But in rare cases, a member can step back without burning bridges. This is what it means to leave in good standing. You're no longer active, but you're still considered a brother. It usually happens when age, health, or circumstances make life more challenging to maintain. Sometimes, legal restrictions like parole conditions force the separation. Even then, the respect remains. The club simply expects you to honor its code. Keep your distance, keep its business private, and never speak out of turn. But when you don't leave on good terms, it's bad standing.
It's kind of become the new norm in the outlaw bike world. You leave the club, you're out bad.
Leaving in bad standing is an entirely different story. This is when you're expelled for breaking the code. disrespecting another member, defying rules, or the ultimate betrayal, cooperating with law enforcement. Once you're labeled out bad, you're not just removed, you're erased. Members are ordered to cut all ties. People you rode with for years will act like you never existed, because if they don't, they risk punishment themselves. It's a social execution. But whether you leave in good standing or bad, one rule never changes. Anything with the club's name or the death head patch goes back.
Everything that with Hells Angels, anything that says Hells Angels, any jewelry, anything, you have to give it back to the club because they own the name. They own everything. And you're just using it, you know? So everything, even if you leave the club in good standing, you have to give everything back.
That means your patch, your CUDA, and every piece of gear with the Hells Angels logo. Stickers and emblems are stripped from your bike, your helmet, your jacket. And if you don't hand them over, they won't just wait politely. Members will come to collect. Sometimes that means showing up at your house, walking in, and taking what's theirs. If club stickers stay on your bike, you won't just lose the sticker, you'll lose the whole bike. It's all about control, respect, and protecting their image. And that doesn't stop at property. For many members, their body itself carries the club's mark, tattoos. And those too belong to the club. The member has to remove the club's tattoos from their body as well. In a 1% club like the Hells Angels, a tattoo isn't personal art, it's property of the patch. The death's head, the club name, the rockers, they belong to the club, not the man wearing them. If you leave out bad, you're giving that tattoo back, one way or another. Some ex-members take the clean route with laser removal or a cover-up, but the other method is brutal. Former members and law enforcement repeat the same story. Men pinned down, the ink carved out, burned off, or forcibly blacked out until no trace remains. The scar that's left isn't just physical, it's a warning. In any outlaw bar, prison yard, or biker rally, that mark silently says, "This man crossed the club, and he paid in flesh." In one notorious case, Charles Pee Wee Goldsmith recalled knowing about a man in prison with a Hells Angels tattoo. Other inmates forced him down and burned the ink from his skin. That's the kind of violence the club and its image demands.
And I just told Kickstand, I said, take care of it, and they give him the old hot spoons, and took it off his arm.
They burned the tattoo.
Yeah, they burned it off his arm, yeah.
And that brings us to another path out. One of the few that doesn't end in blood or exile. Retirement. If you're locked up for years, the club may treat it as an honorable retirement. Not because you've walked away, but because you physically can't take part in club life. You'll keep your respect, but your role changes. You're out of the meetings, out of the runs, and out of the day-to-day brotherhood, even if you're still considered one of them in name. The process for a free man is formal, almost ceremonial. The member stands before his chapter, explains why he can't fulfill his duties, and the brothers vote. It has to be unanimous. If approved, it's a final salute, a nod that he earned the right to leave without the stain of betrayal. But even this honorable discharge comes with chains. The no-contact policy still applies. The retired angel is no longer part of life. No clubhouse visits, no rides, no casual reunions. He's respected but exiled, a living legend who can never go home. And while some men earn respect on their way out, others carry the heaviest label of all, informant. Some men get that label whether they earned it or not. In the outlaw world, reputation is currency, and the club knows how to bankrupt yours overnight. One word can do it. R-A-T. In this life, being called a rat or informant is the ultimate betrayal. Truth doesn't matter. Once the club says it, it's a fact. No proof is needed. The accusation is the verdict, and the verdict is the sentence. Take George Christie, former president of the Ventura chapter. He claimed he walked away over philosophical differences and never worked with the police. But once the club branded him an informant, the truth became irrelevant. From that moment on, the rumor was reality. Sometimes, though, authorities create rats from the inside. Facing heavy charges, members are offered a deal. Turn on your brothers and earn a lighter sentence. That's what happened to Dave Atwell, the former Sergeant-at-Arms of the Toronto chapter, the highest-ranking Canadian Hells Angel ever to flip. For 18 months, he secretly recorded meetings, mapped drug routes, and fed intelligence to police. His cooperation led to 31 arrests and millions in drugs, cash, and property seized. When the club suspected a leak, law enforcement pulled him out. The man who once enforced discipline now lives in witness protection, nameless, rootless, and permanently scanning every crowd for familiar faces. But perhaps no betrayal cut deeper than George Weathern's. As vice president of the Oakland chapter in the 1960s, riding alongside Sonny Barger himself, Weathern was as trusted as they came. That ended in 1973, when police raided his 153-acre ranch in Ukiah, California. They found narcotics, stolen weapons, and, through informant tips, evidence linking the property to 3 bodies. With bail set at $200,000 each for him and his wife, Weathern faced the rest of his life behind bars. He took the deal, testify against his brothers. His testimony tied members to drug trafficking, weapons caches, and multiple violent crimes. The result? Over a dozen indictments and a crippling blow to the Angels' West Coast operations. When the trials ended, Weathern vanished into the shadows. In 1978, he re-emerged with A Wayward Angel, written with Vincent Colnett, a raw expose of drug-fueled runs, sex-soaked picnics, killings, and the brutal inner code of the Angels. Reissued in 2004 and even translated into German by 2012, it remains one of the most unflinching insider accounts ever published. Today, he lives under an assumed name in witness protection. But if the wrong person recognized him, it would almost certainly be the last face he ever saw. The Hells Angels' history is littered with exits. Some quiet, some explosive. Each one reveals how the club measures loyalty and how it punishes betrayal. In the late 1970s, Anthony Tate, a respected Alaska member, secretly worked with the FBI. His undercover tapes and testimony in 1987 helped convict 13 members on racketeering and drug charges. In the club's eyes, he wasn't just out bad, he was erased, a ghost whose name could only be spoken with venom. In Quebec, Maurice "Mom" Boucher became one of the most feared Hells Angels leaders. He drove the bloody Quebec biker war against the rival Rock Machine from 1994 to 2002, a conflict that claimed more than 150 lives. His rule showed how one man's ambition could drag an entire city into chaos. Then came Walter Stadnick, who rose to national president in Canada. After Boucher's fall, Stadnick expanded the club's reach across the country, cementing the Angels as the dominant outlaw force in Quebec and beyond. But his aggressive push also stirred tension within the ranks, raising questions about how far and how fast the club should grow. There were also quieter defections, like that of an East Coast member in the 1990s. Biker accounts say he openly criticized the club's direction before disappearing from the scene. No official record explains what happened, but in this world, challenging leadership often means you're forced to leave the biker life altogether. Some of these men vanished into the shadows. Others sparked vendettas that lasted for years. All of them prove one thing. In the Hells Angels, walking away isn't just about leaving the club. It's about surviving what comes next. But not every exit ends in blood or exile. A few members, rare exceptions, have left in good standing, respected enough to announce it publicly, even on social media. David LaBrava, real-life Hells Angel and Sons of Anarchy actor, did exactly that. On Instagram, he announced his exit openly, making it clear he left on his own terms, in good standing, with respect for the club. He thanked the Oakland Charter for helping him live his dreams, riding alongside first-generation Hells Angels legends on 2 continents. For LaBrava, it wasn't about conflict. It was about turning the page, rescuing dogs, helping people, creating art, and spending more time with his family. He promised he would never speak on the subject again, calling his love and respect for the club endless. It's one of the rare examples of an exit without bitterness, violence, or scandal. But even here, the rule remains. In the Hells Angels, once you're out, you're out. Even so, not every departure means giving up the patch entirely. Some members step away from their chapter without leaving the club, choosing a different path altogether. the life of a nomad. Not everyone who steps away from their local chapter is truly leaving the Hells Angels. Some take the middle ground, becoming nomads. A nomad still wears the patch. They're still a full member. But unlike most angels, they aren't tied to one chapter. They operate alone, roaming from state to state, showing up at events when they choose, and sometimes stepping in as extra muscle when a chapter calls. On paper, it sounds like freedom. No mandatory meetings, no clubhouse politics, no local obligations. But the reality is different. The rules still bind you. The loyalties still hold. And the consequences for stepping out of line are exactly the same. Some go nomad after falling out with their chapter, but not with the club itself. Others do it because of work, family, or legal trouble. And some just live for the road. But don't mistake nomad for neutral. You might be away from a clubhouse, but you're never out of reach. You're still expected to show up at big runs, still expected to back your brothers when called, and still carrying the weight of that patch everywhere you go. Walking away from the Hells Angels doesn't just change the man in the cut. It ripples through everyone around him. Wives lose their standing in the biker circle. Kids face questions they can't answer, or sudden moves to new schools. Even distant relatives can feel old friendships vanish overnight. Law enforcement often views a departing member as an opportunity, offering deals, lighter sentences, or protection in exchange for information. But once the case is closed, the safety net fades, while the danger from old brothers never does. For those in hiding, life becomes a cycle of vigilance, never eating at the same place twice, moving without warning, scanning every crowd for a familiar face. From the club's side, it isn't seen as cruelty. Loyalty is the code. Quitting, especially in bad standing, isn't just leaving. It's breaking an oath, and in their eyes, consequences are the price that keeps the brotherhood alive. You've seen what happens when you walk away from the Hells Angels, the rules, the risks, and the price that follows. But the outlaw world doesn't end here. Click on the next video to uncover the rise of another force, built on fear, bound by loyalty, and driven by a brotherhood just as dangerous.